So here I am. It's Sophie here, and it's lovely to be here again and to really discuss tonight about full moons. We just had a full moon yesterday, no, not last night, 3:35 in the morning yesterday. And so I want to talk about full moons because they do impact us, and there's a scientific reason why they do. And this is because they have a tidal effect, which is a pulling effect on anything fluid. So if you imagine that we are 70 to 80% fluid, 80% fluid in the brain, and therefore we are impacted, because we're fluid, we're impacted by that pulling effect. So if you can imagine, when we're dehydrated, we get toxic. And that means that we concentrate toxicity, which is basically gunk, inside the cells. And when you then have the full moon on top of that, it impacts, doesn't it? It pulls. So it concentrates the toxicity inside the cell even more than usual. So you might already have a toxic load for whatever reason, which I can, go into a little bit in a minute. But the full moon will impact that even more, and that is why it can be so uncomfortable. And it's about 3 days usually before and 3 days after that it impacts. So I don't know how you're feeling right now. I've had a few messages from people having a few wobbles. Poor sleep is a very typical symptom around the full moon. Irritability, mood swings, food cravings because the blood sugar's dropping. So I'll explain, specifically what's happening with those. So what happens at night is there is a changeover, and it's called a cellular exchange. So basically when you look at the cell, there are 4 electrolytes that need to be in the right place at the right time. Now I'm really simplifying this for simplification. This is every single cell in the body, whether it's a skin cell, whether it's a brain cell, all of the cells have different functions, but their basic function is always the same. And what needs to happen at night is that calcium and sodium needs to move out of the cell, and potassium and magnesium go inside the cell, and that's called cellular exchange. But it can only do that if you're properly hydrated, which is why I go on and on about drinking water, because it's so important. And around the full moon, there's a pulling effect on that. So can you imagine if you're a bit dehydrated, if you're a bit stressed, if your diet isn't great, if there's a combination of factors leading up to the full moon, it can be very uncomfortable. And at night time, when you're trying to get that exchange happening, if it can't happen properly because you're dehydrated and acidic, because you're stressed, because you have various different reasons why, then you're going to get that sort of restless sleep. Your blood sugar is going to drop. You're going to wake up. You're going to find it hard either to get to sleep, or you might fall asleep and wake up and be in and out of sleep all night, or maybe even not be able to get back to sleep. And that is that irritability around the electrolytes not balancing properly inside and outside the cell. And it comes down to that very basic thing of hydration. Of course, there may be other implications and things that are impacting your hydration, but that's the basics, and that's why we can have poor sleep. The other thing that can happen is we can get quite hyperactive. So instead of getting this lovely sort of relaxed feeling at night as the sun goes down, we actually feel we feel wired. So that's a good description, wired. And again, this is because there's too much calcium and sodium inside the cell, irritating. It's so irritating for the body when it's out of balance like that. So you can actually find that you feel wired and irritable and uncomfortable, and that makes it really hard to get to sleep. The other thing that you can have is more food cravings. And what typically happens with food cravings is that on a physical level, we're craving the food to try to feel better. And often it's sugar or it's damaged fats like salty crisps, those kinds of things, because they sort of raise the blood sugar basically. And that's whether it's salt or sugar. It creates a change at that cellular level, creates that movement temporarily. Of course, the problem is that it boosts your blood sugar for a short time, and then you go deeper into your toxicity. So you've put all that salt in there, or you put all that sugar in there, and it gives you that boost, and then you go deeper into your toxicity, deeper into that cellular imbalance. But the food cravings are there because it's really uncomfortable when the full moon is pulling and having that tidal effect on your fluids. If you're already a bit dehydrated and out of balance, it's so uncomfortable that the food cravings are a desperate need to try to feel better in that moment. So please don't beat yourself up if you're shoving the chocolate in. Of course, the problem is, or the glasses of wine, the problem is that when you do that, the next day you have a doubly worse hangover, or you have a doubly worse effect from the chocolates, and maybe you have headaches and things, because the full moon is having that pulling and concentrating effect. When you then indulge in something that is tough on the body, that affects your fluids, that toxifies you, then the symptoms, the reaction is much worse. So the next day you can feel like you've got a really bad hangover. So really that's the impact of the full moon. So what you can do is put the full moon dates in your diary and actually use it as an opportunity to do a detox. I don't know why, but my middle son decided to do a water fast this week I heard it through my daughter, and it's concerning me slightly because hi, there she is. There's Isabella. She's just been in the sea.
I went sea swimming.
Yay, you went sea swimming, and sea swimming is incredible. It's so detoxifying. It's full of negative ions and super balancing for your body. So I really recommend that. I didn't get in. No, I didn't get in. I'm going to try next time. Next time I'm going to have to psych myself up because it is so incredibly healthy. So my son, who's probably the most health conscious, did go on a water fast. And I think he lasted 24 hours and started to feel really sick, apparently. I need to catch up with him and find out. I'm hearing about this through my daughter.
In
yes.
the night he woke up and
yes.
he felt really sick.
He felt really sick. So one of the dangers of suddenly doing something like a water fast is that it puts too much stress on your system. So I am all for detoxifying, especially at the time of a full moon, because just like when you indulge in the wrong foods and get yourself stressed out, it has a doubly worse effect. When you indulge in a detox, it has a doubly beneficial, a much more powerful effect. So it's a really, really good time to do a detox. So things like vegetable juicing, short grain brown rice, and that kind of thing. The problem with a water fast is what happens is when you don't eat is that your cells start chucking out the toxins really quickly, and your routes of elimination can't cope. So your routes of elimination are your bowel, your kidneys, your skin, and your lungs. Mostly bowel, I would say, that's your most major route of elimination. So what happens is you start chucking out the toxins really quickly, and your routes of elimination cannot cope. They cannot get it out quick enough. And what's key in a detox is that you get the balance between how much you're getting the toxins out of the body and how much you're getting them out of the cells. That's why I don't encourage particularly water fasts or juicing detoxes. I do recommend you put, for example, you could do vegetable juicing for the day, but then you'd want to put that short grain brown rice in to kind of soak up the toxins, support the bowel, and balance that process of shifting toxins out of the cells and getting them out of the body. You want to get it about even, so your toxins are coming out of your cells through the juicing and the water intake, and then the bowel is able to cope and take that rubbish out at equal levels. Otherwise, that's when you get the headaches, the spots, what we call the cleansing crisis, and it is really uncomfortable. And that's clearly what's happened to my son Seb. I need to have a chat with him and explain to him that had he chosen the more gentle version, which would be things like soups, vegetable juicing, some brown rice, maybe some quinoa, and just kept it very gentle, that is a lovely detox to do. If you like doing enemas, then maybe if he'd done a coffee enema or a water enema, he might have coped. But actually, I'm not keen on water fasts. I think it's too dramatic for your system, and it really shouldn't be done unless you have been regularly fasting for periods of time before that. So be careful. Message me if you're keen to have a go. Hi, Gazilla. God, I can't pronounce your name. Isn't that rubbish? I'm so sorry. Okay, so that's that about full moons. I hope that gives you a bit of an idea. If you want to write any questions in the comments to ask about that, if you've had any weird symptoms, bloating, digestive problems, it all comes down to this tidal effect, this pulling effect with the full moon, which will sometimes exacerbate the symptoms we already have and make us feel more irritable. So that's really it about the full moons. And then what I wanted to do was to talk to you a little bit about how I work and how I work different to other nutritional therapists and other health coaches out there. Now, my 3 areas of expertise are the menopause, weight loss, and food intolerance. So what I'm going to do is go through those particular areas and just describe to you my philosophy and approach around how I deal with those 3 areas. So the first one I'm going to look at is food intolerance. Food intolerance is the result of an already discombobulated system. So food intolerances are not true allergies. They occur in a body that is already out of balance, already dehydrated, and already acidic. And what happens, it's a bit like having a barrel in your stomach, and the barrel is full, and the barrel is full with maybe a family history of toxicity, maybe environmental toxicity, lifestyle imbalance, and perhaps poor diet and stress. And when the barrel gets full and tips over, then the body goes into a kind of red alert. So it produces a lot more histamine than normal. That's that very stressed situation in the body. And then you start reacting to the food you're eating. So it's not that the food itself is actually bad. I mean, we call it good and bad, but actually food is food. But there are certain foods that are more challenging than others, and that's just the way it is. So we have gluten, which is sprayed with a lot of glyphosate, which is incredibly troubling for the system. And it's also a very dehydrating grain. It's grown in a very different way to the way it was grown 100 years ago. There's a huge demand for it, so the quality of it isn't great. So much better to go for organic. Even make your own bread if you can, if you're going to have gluten. So there are food intolerances that a lot of people react to: dairy products, gluten, what I call the drugs, chocolate, coffee, tea, citrus. You know, there are some common food intolerances that we generally, a lot of us react to, and then we may get very specific food intolerances depending. But what I want to say to you is that it doesn't mean you're stuck with it for life. It means that what you need to do is to go in and rebalance your system using the various different techniques that I use, which is addressing diet, healing gut, rebalancing lifestyle, sorting out stress. And what happens is you bring the histamine level down when you hydrate fully and adjust your diet and do those various things. You bring your histamine level down and you stop reacting to the food. It doesn't mean you're never going to react to it again, but it also doesn't mean that you can never eat the food again. So don't think that once you've developed a problem with cheese, for example, that you're never going to be able to eat it. Once you rebalance your system, you will probably find that you can eat it again. So what I do is I do food intolerance testing, which obviously I can't do at the moment. And that is using a very simple device, which is completely painless with instant results. And then what I do is help devise a program for you to follow. And I usually recommend if you can do 4 to 6 weeks of avoiding the food and then trying it out again and seeing how it goes. But like I said, you're wanting to really get underneath it, because food intolerances don't cause your problems. They trigger. They're a trigger and they irritate and they aggravate, but it's important to get underneath what is going on. So that's my speciality. I've been doing that for about 30 years. And I just want you to know that you don't need to suffer, and that once you get underneath what's going on, you do not need to have long-term food allergies and food intolerances. So, and also things like pollens, hay fever. I don't know if anybody watching is getting a few sort of hay fevery symptoms. These are all resolvable. I had terrible hay fever when I first started my training in nutrition, and it completely disappeared. And the only time I ever get a sneezing attack is if I'm a bit run down. So it's completely resolvable. The other area that I work in is weight loss. And my approach to weight loss is very much working on the emotional level. It is really important to recognize that there's no point in going in and doing a faddy diet. It doesn't work. It's unsustainable. So what we do is we unpick how you have got to this place in your life with your weight issues and probably some other health issues there as well. And we really look at your relationship with food, and we look at your relationship with yourself. That's where we start. So we start to unpick the emotional baggage, all of the adverse childhood experiences you've had, the messages you've received, the negative messaging you've had as a child growing up. We unpick all of that and we create a really solid foundation where you start to prioritize yourself and love yourself like never before. When you develop a relationship with yourself that is so loving, that is so compassionate and so kind, you will find that your relationship with food transforms. And what happens is, as we start to unpick all of that, and it may only take 1 or 2 sessions, it might take longer. And one of the things that helps is to have a 30-minute consultation with me, a free phone call, to discuss that and look at what strategy will suit you, and also how long it might take to really get and achieve your goals. So we really unpick the emotional aspect. And we also really get into developing a healthy mindset. And that is around, again, your relationship with yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you prioritize yourself, how you respect yourself. And what you'll find is that diet becomes a natural evolution from that. How you eat, healthy eating, healthy habits becomes a natural result of that. So it isn't this thing of you being on this strict diet and never being able to eat your favorite food and, you know, just having a miserable time and having to stick to a rigid plan. It isn't like that at all. Once you get underneath the emotional eating aspects of it, and you get in touch with your inner self, and you get into that healing mode with yourself, then you will find that naturally you are drawn to taking care of yourself better, eating healthier foods, and recognizing when you're choosing the food over soothing yourself in a more effective way. So this is the work we do, and it is proving so effective with clients that I work with who are developing this loving relationship with themselves. And the whole food thing changes, the whole relationship to food changes, their eating habits change, their desire to take care of themselves changes, and it becomes a long-term success. You're not going to lose weight straight away. Some weeks you're going to lose weight easier than others because it depends on what time of the month you are, how much fluid you're carrying that month, whether it's a full moon, for example, and it's really factoring in all of those different things, the natural cycles, your natural cycle, the seasons, your emotions, your mindset, whether you're being ruled by this inner critic that tells you you're not good enough, or you're fat, or any of those kind of messages you have. And we really work on that so that it is a lifelong relationship, healthy relationship you develop with yourself. And like I said, the diet, the eating just falls into place. So that's what I do with the weight. That's how I work with the weight loss program that I do. And then finally, I just wanted to tap into the menopause, because again, there's this idea around menopause that is quite different to mine, which is that your hormones cause your health issues in the menopause, your symptoms. And what I'm going to say to you now is that it's not true. The hormones trigger changes in your body, of course. The hormones are declining. It's not a bad thing. You're transitioning from one phase of your life to the next phase of your life. That is completely normal and completely natural. There's nothing weird about that. And if you just put a load of synthetic hormones in to try to smooth the journey out, you end up just suppressing and not really getting underneath the problem. So I don't mean that you need to suffer with the symptoms of the menopause. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is when you go into the menopause carrying emotional baggage, stress, unbalanced work-life balance, poor diet, and poor eating habits or whatever, then what happens is the hormonal change triggers the movement of toxicity in the body, and that is incredibly uncomfortable. So say for example you suffer with hot flushes. What hot flushes are, that is the liver's way of using the skin like a third kidney to clear the toxic load. Things like night sweats are a similar thing. Digestive problems are showing there's an imbalance in the gut, and bad bacteria are growing and good bacteria can't survive because it's too dry and acidic in there. So what the menopause does, just like any other hormonal event like adolescence and pregnancy, is it brings the toxic load up to the surface to be dealt with. And that is incredibly uncomfortable if you've got quite a heavy toxic load, and if your routes of elimination cannot shift that toxic load effectively. So then you will get symptoms. So if you're interested in choosing the natural route of getting underneath what is going on and getting underneath what the menopause is showing you, and it will be showing you not only your physical toxic load, but your emotional toxic load. It is an invitation for you to connect with your inner child and to really develop a rock solid relationship with yourself. And if when you get to the menopause, you are not in balance, you are not prioritizing yourself, you're giving your power away, giving too much energy to the family and not taking care of you, then the menopause, any hormonal change, will show you in no uncertain terms that you are not getting the balance right. And the thing to understand about prioritizing you, it is not this thing of being selfish. It might appear to be selfish, but what it does is when you take care of yourself, you inadvertently take care of others. Because when you take care of yourself, you have better energy levels, your moods are more balanced, you feel better about yourself, your moods will generally be uplifted, you'll feel more motivated and enthusiastic. And guess what? That then translates to the rest of the family and to friends. You feel better, so you're going to act better, so you're going to take care of your loved ones better. So it isn't this thing of being selfish. Don't ever think that. And the sooner we get that in perimenopause and menopause, that when we're taking care of ourselves and listening to our inner selves and putting our needs first, that is a great service, not only to family and friends, but also to mankind, to the world around us. So we have a responsibility to take care of ourselves. So that is how I approach the menopause. Is I will, yes, look at diet and lifestyle, but what is absolutely key, and it's the same with the weight loss program, is to get underneath the emotional angst, to get underneath the emotional baggage that's being carried, that is sitting like a ticking time bomb, affecting your moods, your behavior, affecting your food choices, affecting everything. So when we get underneath that, it is so much more effective than just picking a lovely healthy diet, that's wonderful, and just doing the dietary bit. The dietary bit is great, but if it doesn't land into a body, into an emotional state that is grounded, that with a person who takes care of themselves, who puts themselves first, so their boundaries are clear, their priorities are clear. If you then put a healthy diet into that, you're going to work magic. If you just do the healthy diet, then it's for some people fine, because that's all they needed to tweak and sort out. But for the majority of people, if we can get underneath the emotional baggage and change that mindset and really encourage that inner parent, that inner coach to come in those difficult moments and really support you, rather than listening to the inner critic that is constantly telling us off, telling us we're not good enough, causing us to beat ourselves up all the time. Those are the areas that need the most nurturing and the most support. And that is why I've created the 3 programs that I've created. Hi, Hayley. Hi. Is that Ruta? Hi there, guys. Lovely to see you. So that's why I've created these 3 packages, because they are brilliant for helping you to commit, to really do the deep dive, do the inner work, really acknowledge where your stress is and start to release some of the emotional angst and change your mindset. And, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day. If you want weight loss, if you want more energy, if you want a smoother menopausal journey, then your quick faddy diet or your quick 2-day detox is not going to do it. It needs to be a commitment, and it needs to be a commitment of time and, yes, some money to get your end goal. And that's why I've created these packages. The Menopause is a 3-month-long package of 6 sessions with a bonus 7th session. The weight loss package is 4 sessions, and the food intolerance package is 2 sessions, because I want you to be a winner. I want you to achieve your goals. And working nearly 30 years in this holistic environment, you cannot achieve those kinds of goals, not sustainably and not long term, without doing the inner work, without getting underneath what's going on with your health, taking the time to review your entire health history from birth to the present day, and in fact before birth, and looking at your family history too. And once you do that, and once you spend that time doing that deep dive, you don't have to go back there again. You don't have to do it all over again. If you get underneath it and make that commitment from the start, you don't have to keep doing it. Once you learn what your body's trying to tell you, and once you discover the techniques that I teach you, you can't unlearn those. Once you understand what your body's trying to tell you, once you understand that when you listen to your inner critic and constantly beat yourself up, that the food cravings will continue, the emotional eating will continue. Once you understand that hot flushes are just your body's way of trying to clear toxins, then you get underneath, you start to really understand that your body never works against you, that it's always doing the best it can at every single moment to try to rebalance the system. And sometimes that means you get some pretty nasty symptoms along the way. But if you can trust that those symptoms are a way for the body to clear your toxic load, and if you work with the body to help it clear the toxic load by addressing your stress and your emotional angst, and also addressing your diet and lifestyle, then you can't not win. You can't not be successful. But in this time of massive upheaval and difficulty, why not engage the services of somebody like me to help you on your journey? It doesn't mean you're going to have to see me for the rest of your life, but you might have to invest some time and energy at the start, and maybe for a few weeks or a few months, maybe even on and off for a few years. But isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it to reach those weight goals where you can wear those shorts or wear that pretty dress and go out feeling confident and, enthusiastic and energized? Wouldn't it feel amazing not to have hay fever anymore, or not to suffer with allergic rhinitis every time the spring comes, and to feel miserable with that? Wouldn't it feel amazing not to constantly have low energy and hot flushes and night sweats and mood swings and feel like you're tearing your hair out? Wouldn't it be so lovely to have that? And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to suffer with any of those things. You might in the beginning get them on and off at the start because your body's readjusting and you're learning different techniques. And like I said, you're not going to get it straight away. It's going to need, daily consistent action. And some days are going to be successful and other days not so much. It doesn't matter if you're looking at the long-term goal and you trust that you can get from A to B. So that is the difference between me and perhaps other practitioners that you've met, is that I will ask you and invite you to get underneath what's going on. And particularly when it comes to weight loss, it is always around your relationship with food, which is based on your relationship with yourself, which is based on your early childhood experiences. And when you get that and when you understand that, it is utterly transformative. And the diet side, well, diet, the word just pops out the window, because it's not about diet. It's just about eating in a way that is supportive, that is nourishing for your body, that is caring. And it doesn't involve a faddy diet that doesn't include your glass of wine and your bar of chocolate. You're supposed to enjoy yourself. So, it's not about these awful, faddy, restrictive diets. It's about looking at the long-term goal. So that's the way I work. And I wanted to just give you an insight into that, because I know that it's useful to know how I work in case you do decide that this is something that you'd like to embark on, that you are sitting at home in quarantine thinking about aspects of your health that you so much want to be different. And, it's an invitation now for you to take the time now to start to get underneath what's going on and start to put those practices in place that really support your body and really support you achieving those goals you want. Whatever it is, whether it's a particular dress size, whether it's to have a smooth menopausal journey, or whether it's to be free of things like hay fever that accompany food intolerances. So I hope you've enjoyed watching. Thank you, Louisa, for joining as well. If you've got any questions, just write them in the comments and I'll respond afterwards. I'm sending you lots of love. I know it's a really difficult time for a lot of people at the moment. I want you to know that health is not something that we should take for granted, but it's also not something that is that difficult to achieve. Disease is not random. Viral activity is not random. Just because you're exposed to it does not mean you're going to get it. You have to have exactly the right conditions to grow for a virus to multiply. And those are very, very specific conditions. And they're basically, at a very basic level, dryness and acidity. So nothing is random in this universe. And the body isn't random either. It is very particular. It is very ordered in the way it works. So if you are taking care of yourself, if you're getting lovely fresh sea air, if you're drinking plenty of water, if you're nourishing yourself with vegetables and fruits, etc., don't worry, you're going to be fine. Okay? And so I just want to say, I hope you're holding up in this weird time and hopefully taking advantage of it somehow and really, really taking care of yourself, particularly you lovely ladies watching. Anybody who's in the menopausal phase, it is such a powerful invitation to come back to you, to come back to the true, the you that is the essential you, not mum, not sister, not daughter, but just the essence of who you are. So I hope you can take this time to nourish yourself, and do get in touch if you've got any questions and you're needing any kind of support on this weirdly health journey we are on, because we're all being made to take a good look at the areas of our lives that are not working. And I hope you're getting a bit of time to discover what those areas are and getting a bit of time for you and not giving yourself a hard time at all, but getting some nice quality time for yourself. So lots of love to you all and wishing you all the very best right now. And get in touch if you need any support at all. I'm there for you. Bye.